What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And for this one, man, I had a request from one of you guys asking me to do an updated version for my list of the best farmable characters currently in the game. And I decided that was a really good idea because the last time I made a video like this was over a year ago, and a lot has changed since then, guys. Some of the characters that were unplayable a year ago, as of right now, if you pick up their uniforms, are some of the best characters in the game. So I wanted to update this list in hopes of helping some of you guys who are new to the game and you want to know which characters you should be picking very early on from the free-to-play farmable options. Okay, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the story mission, and I'm gonna walk you guys through the entire list of characters that I think you should be farming for as soon as you start playing Marvel Future Fight. First and foremost, you should be farming for Captain America because out of every one of the Avengers, Captain America is probably the only one that's actually really good without a uniform. So he should be very high up there on your priority list. And since he's a story mode character, he's very easy to rank up and get to tier 2. And he's going to be very easy to use because he's extremely tanky, as Captain America should be. So definitely go ahead and pick up Captain America, and he's going to be an amazing character for you early on. The same will be true for Iron Man. While he won't have the survivability that Captain America has, if you pick up his Avengers Infinity War uniform, he's going to be one of the strongest characters in the game when it comes to dealing out a massive amount of damage. Okay, I personally have that uniform, and if you want to see some amazing gameplay with it, go ahead and check out some of the videos on the channel. Believe me when I say you should most definitely go ahead and pick up the uniform for Iron Man. Same is true for Rhodes, okay? Rhodes is completely unplayable without a uniform, and you most definitely have to give him his Avengers Infinity War uniform because it makes him one of the best characters in the game, okay? So make sure you guys farm for a War Machine because he's a true beast. Black Widow is really good without a uniform. She's no Captain America, but she has a nice mixture of damage and survivability even without a uniform. But if you pick up her Avengers Infinity War uniform, she's going to be a solid character. So you most definitely want to pick her up. Vision is only usable once you get him to tier 2. He becomes extremely tanky, but he doesn't have very good DPS. When it comes to Ultron, he has a nice mixture of damage and survivability. It's not very good, but it's not very bad either. He's a solid mid-tier universal character, so you should definitely pick him up. Now, going on to chapter 2 right here, skip Mockingbird. She's absolutely atrocious no matter what uniform you have for her. Go ahead and pick up Punisher and give him his War Machine uniform, and he truly becomes a machine of war, okay? He definitely delivers big time if you pick up that uniform. Luke Cage is a niche character, only really designed for PvP, so you're not really going to get too much out of him even while you get him at tier 2, but he's a decent pickup. Shouldn't be very high on your priority list, but he's decent if you're a fan of the character. Now, when it comes to Falcon, you most definitely want to give this guy his Marvel Legacy uniform because that's where he's going to truly shine. Without it, he's not very good. Go ahead and make sure that you pick up the uniform for this guy immediately. Freaking Winter Soldier with his Avengers Infinity War uniform becomes one of the best characters in the game, arguably better than some of the tier 2 natives, okay? This uniform for this guy, man, is definitely one of the best uniform and a must buy for you if you're a fan of this guy. It takes him from a place where he's completely awful to being one of the best in the game. I dare say he's top 15 overall, and as of right now, we have 157 characters in the game, okay? PvP, PvE, Winter Soldier is a freaking monster. Go ahead and skip MODOK, and you want to skip Blade. Hawkeye is really bad, and then you want to go ahead and pick up Venom because with his anti-venom uniform, he actually becomes a really good standalone character, but also an amazing support. Then you most definitely want to pick up the web-slinging legend that is Spider-Man. Really good without his uniform, but if you pick up either his Homecoming uniform or his Avengers Infinity War Iron Spider uniform, he truly becomes a top-tier character both for PvP and for PvE. Skip Green Goblin, skip Sharon Carter or Agent 13, and you most definitely want to go ahead and pick up the Doctor because he's really good without a uniform, a very solid combat type, and a very solid supervillain at that. He can do a lot for you, especially early on. ABX, Shadowland, you name it. World Boss, he can do it as well. Now, going further, you want to make sure you skip Daredevil and you want to skip Bullseye, and I dare say you should avoid Ghost Rider because it takes a lot for him to be good. It takes his tier 2 and his uniform for him to be decent. He has a really good tier 2 passive that's meant for him to destroy supervillains, but his survivability is just not good enough. So I would ideally say avoid him because he takes a lot for you to get very little back in return. Next up is Iron Fist. For this guy, without his uniform, he has amazing DPS but absolutely no survivability. Pick up any one of his uniforms and he becomes decent. Pick up his Netflix uniform and he actually becomes a beast. So definitely consider that if you're a fan of Iron Fist. Elektra is really good. At one point she was one of the worst characters in the game, but as of right now she's a very solid mid-tier speed character, so I would highly recommend you guys pick her up because she doesn't need a uniform to be good. Okay, Kingpin you can ideally avoid. He has decent damage based on his summons, but overall his survivability is just not that good. But if you're a diehard fan of Kingpin, go ahead and pick him up and he'll be able to do some of the game's content for you. This chapter right here is basically just a repeat of everything we've already spoke about. This chapter right here is just more of the same, and we have Red Skull right here. Red Skull, I would say skip him, even though if you give him his speed uniform he becomes playable, but even so 750 crystals just to be able to barely do anything with him is really not worth it. Now this chapter right here is just more of the same. This chapter right here is where it gets interesting because you're looking at the king of Wakanda in Black Panther. He's amazing without his uniform, but if you give him his Black Panther movie uniform, he actually becomes a true beast, one of the best combat characters in the game. It is a pricey pack because it's a legendary pack, but you get the uniform at legendary and you actually get a good amount of damage out of the character if you decide to pick it up. Next up on this list is actually the God of Thunder, Thor. Now Thor needs his uniform to be good. He needs either his Ragnarok uniform or ideally his freaking Avengers Infinity War uniform, because that thing makes him a true monster. High DPS, very good survivability in the form of iframes, damage immunity, and a guard. Okay, but if you're gonna farm someone from this list and you don't want to invest into a uniform, I would say go with Black Panther first because he has a nice mixture of damage immunity and iframes, and his damage is respectable even if you have him at tier 1. And after Black Panther, I'd highly recommend that you guys go ahead and pick up Black Bolt because he actually has respectable DPS, making him quite a formidable character once you manage to get him to tier 2, because his tier 2 passive actually fixes the core problem with the character, which is not enough survivability. At tier 2, he has 5 seconds of damage immunity, which is actually really good because at tier 1, he basically only has 1 iframe and an HP shield, and oftentimes that is not enough to get the job done with him. However, once you get him to tier 2, it's a night and day difference. Believe me guys, I personally slacked on getting him to tier 2, and once I did, it felt so much better to play with the king. Next up on this list, I would say skip Sif and go ahead and prioritize Phil Coulson. Phil Coulson as a standalone character is absolutely awful. I've never been able to do anything with the guy in the game, but he is truly an amazing support type, as he should be. If you actually get him to tier 2, he will make sure that some of the game's most difficult content is very easy for you. So he's definitely a priority here when it comes to the shield characters. Lincoln Campbell's also really good for stuff like Shadowland, and he's also a really good leadership for Thor because he gives you a 60% increase to lightning damage. Now looking at the list right here is just more of the same, but we have Deathlock right here. He's just a leadership and nothing else. He's absolutely terrible. You could farm for Daisy if you want because she has a decent 3 skill that you can use to buff your characters and make them stronger, but farming her for just that reason is just really not that good to me at the very least. Now going into the Asgardian zone, we have Ulik, who's a character that is actually a pretty solid leadership and overall decent supervillain, one that I don't use enough, but I will tell you guys that he's a decent character to farm for. Then we have Malekith, who's really not that good, and without his uniform he's unplayable. With his uniform he's decent, but ideally from this list I would say farm for Ulik and farm for Vostag. You could farm for Hogan too because he's a decent leadership and he's decent for Shadowland, but I would say skip Fangio and ideally skip Malekith. Everybody else I would say is a decent pickup right here. This list right here, ideally you want to go for Hela, but with Hela you're getting one of the best leaderships in the game, but that's about all you're getting from her base kit. You're gonna need to give her her Ragnarok uniform because that's gonna make her a really, really good universal types, especially when it comes to Shadowland. She's gonna be able to do very, very well there. Now, going into chapter 13 right here, we have Black Panther once again, but we have America Chavez, and then we have Captain Marvel, two characters who have decent DPS and very, very good survivability. So I highly recommend you guys farm for them because they're very, very good characters. Now, with that said, let's actually take a look at another way that you guys can be farming for characters in the form of special missions. Now, when it comes to special missions, ideally, you should be farming for Spidey's Rogue Gallery first, simply because up until this point, if you're farming for story mission characters, you're going to have a large imbalance of heroes versus supervillains. So this is going to give you a good way to balance that out and help you guys, especially in Shadowland. Now, when it comes to the order in which I recommend you guys farm for, these guys, I would say go with Sandman first, then go with Mysterio second, and then after that, I would say go Kraven, then Lizard, then Rhino. That is the order, okay? So Sandman 1, Mysterio 2, Kraven 3, Lizard 4, Rhino 5. That's how I rank them based on my time playing with them. I would say Sandman is overall more useful simply because we don't have that many really good combat supervillains that you can use in ABX to get you over 100k. That's why I rank him as number 1 here. Secondly, you have the Inhumans. I would say most definitely go ahead and pick up Crystal. She's a really good character, very solid leadership, very good for Shadowland, good for World Boss mode as well. After Crystal, I would highly recommend you guys pick up Gorgon since he has one of the best leaderships in the game. 45% increase to physical attack is actually really, really good. After Gorgon, it's completely up to you guys if you want to farm for another leadership character, someone like Moon Girl, because she's really not that good overall by herself, but she has a 36% increase to all attack for every single type of character, so that's really, really good there. Maximus is a decent character as well for something like Shadowland or World Boss, just normal level World Boss, but after that you can definitely just skip Karnak and go into the new Avengers. The bad part about the new Avengers is you can actually not farm for hidden routes to get CTPs or custom gear, and that's actually going to set you back when it comes to completing the quest pack, especially for Ruler of the Dark Dimension where you have to find a whole bunch of hidden routes. So that's the bad part about farming for the new Avengers, and one of the reasons why I said you should farm for it last, because hopefully if you're farming for these guys and these guys first, you'll have those things done for the special pack by the time you get here. Now when you get here, I would say go ahead and pick up my girl Songbird first. She's definitely the best character here, really, really good for Shadowland. After that, I would say go for, you can either go White Tiger or you can go for Wiccan, because Wiccan's an overall good character if you know to play him. And then after that, I would say pick up White Tiger, then Squirrel Girl, and completely skip Hulkling because he's good for nothing, okay? So if there's two characters you're gonna skip from special missions, in my opinion, it should be Hulkling because he's straight garbage, and then you should pick this guy to skip as well, Karnak. Not very good. Even with his uniform, he's just mediocre at best. If you're gonna skip someone from this list right here, I would say ideally skip Rhino. Now, next list of characters I want you guys to farm for is actually from the Epic Quest. And ideally, I recommend that you guys start with Doctor Strange Epic Quest, okay? Wolverine is really good, and if you get it done, you get Jean Grey, but it takes significantly longer, in my opinion, to get up to the point where you can actually unlock Jean Grey. So definitely go ahead and work towards Doctor Strange first, because Doctor Strange is definitely going to help you immensely early on in the game. So memory missions right here, I would recommend you guys farm for Ancient One first, because even without his uniform, he's freaking amazing. One of the best characters in the game. Amazing leadership, amazing tier 2 passive overall, very good for Shadowland and World Boss mode as well. I can't say enough about this guy. Truly, he is fantastic. I don't even have his uniform, but you don't even need his uniform. He's just that good. After that, I would say go ahead and pick up Baron Mordo. They show him here in his uniform, but his base kit is actually better than the uniform version, so you don't need to buy the uniform for him. Ideally, I would recommend you completely skip it because it's straight trash. After that, it's completely up to you if you want to skip these two in Caecilius and Wong. Me personally, I barely ever use Wong outside of something like Alliance Conquest, but Caecilius I actually use semi-consistently in stuff like Shadowland, and that's about it. Now, when it comes to the Dark Dimension over here, I would ideally recommend you actually farm for Hellstorm first, because he's really good even at tier 1, a nice mixture of DPS and survivability. And after that, you can go ahead and farm for his sister in Satana. Now, after you finish up Doctor Strange's epic quest, obviously you want to jump right into Rise of the X-Men, and right here you want to start doing the tracking missions. There's no bad choice here, but if I remember correctly, you unlock Rogue first, then Beast, then Storm, then Cyclops. And if I want to say the strongest character here, I would personally say it's Cyclops overall, but there's no bad choice. Farm for them in any order and they will not disappoint. Some people will tell you that Beast is the weakest here, but Beast is actually really good. Amazing leadership, amazing 5-skill buff that you can pass on. Storm is actually really good for Shadowland. All of them are just really good characters across the board. If anything, you'll be lacking a little bit of damage when it comes to stuff like War Boss Ultimate or even Alliance Battle for people like Rogue and Cyclops. But either way, they're really good character. You will not be disappointed in any one of them. Now, for this mission right here, you're going to need to buy the Magneto Deluxe package. And if you're free to play, it's going to take you a very long time. And that's why it's going to take you a really long time to actually unlock Jean Grey if you're doing it the free to play way, because you basically need to tier 2 all of these X-Men characters with the exception of Beast if you want to unlock Jean Grey. Now, after the epic quest, you want to definitely consider farming for some of the characters that you can get in the token shop. Now, when it comes to the token shop, there's not really that many good choices in here, but I would highly recommend that you pick up She-Hulk because she has one of the best leaderships in the game. After that, I would say use your tokens on Werewolf since you can actually already farm for Captain Marvel in story missions. Now, when it comes to Chaos token, I would ideally say go for Elsa first, but since Ant-Man is actually getting a movie very soon, and he may actually become one of the best characters in the game after that movie, he's also a really good character to consider as well. Skip Lash, he's straight trash, and I would say skip Sister Grimm because even at tier 2 she's mediocre at best, and Singularity you can completely skip her as well. She's really not that good. Survivability is not that great, DPS not that great, so overall for me they're not really all that good of a character. I would say She-Hulk and I would say Werewolf are probably the best characters from the shop outside of Elsa and potentially Ant-Man. Now, after that, there is only one other way that you can get free characters that I can remember, and that's actually right here from Villain Siege. Now, from Villain Siege, as of right now, you can get Kate Bishop's bios, so you should farm her from here, obviously, and try to do it every single day. And ideally, over time, you're going to end up with a shit ton of bios for her, so I would ideally not recommend that you guys actually use your bio selector on her. I'll show you guys how many bios I have for her right now if I can remember where they are down here. I think I have like well over 2,000 at this point. Where the heck is she? Where is she? Kate Bishop, Kate Bishop. I can't find her, guys. Goddamn. I know I'm scrolling past her. She's somewhere in here. I seen her the other day. I was looking at how much bios I had. Oh, right here. 3,000. Okay, 3,000 bios. Okay, so this is why you guys should definitely farm for her and do your Villain Siege every single day, and do not use bio selectors on her because at some point you're gonna have a stock pile of bios looking like this. Anyways, next up is actually going to be Dimension Rift, and from here I have to highly recommend that you guys first and foremost build Angel because his leadership is truly phenomenal, and overall as a character the guy is a freaking beast. In PvP, I use this guy basically any week that I cannot use Jean Grey. He's my leadership, and on top of that he delivers as a standalone character, and he's great for the PvE content as well. After that, I would highly recommend you guys build the Wasp because her tier 2 passive is truly invaluable, and overall she's a good character, and she may actually be getting a uniform in the upcoming Ant-Man update. And after you build Angel on the Wasp, I highly recommend that you guys go ahead and pick up Loki because even to this day he's still one of the best universal supervillains we currently have available, especially if you pick up his Ragnarok uniform. The guy becomes a different level of beast. I absolutely love him, and whenever I get to use him in the PvE content, he truly never lets me down. After Loki, it's completely up to you guys what you want to do, but the Yellow Jacket is definitely worth building because he has really good DPS and fairly good survivability. And after that, if you pick up Groot's Baby Groot uniform, Groot actually becomes a really good character. Same can be said for Yondu in his Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 uniform. Giant Man is a decent character, but you should ideally not be in a rush to build him. I would definitely say build Ronin over Giant Man because Ronin actually has a really good leadership, 36% increase to all attack and all defense for universal type. So I would definitely say Ronin first, then possibly Giant Man, and after that you can just ignore Drax because he's complete garbage. Same goes for Nebula, same goes for MODOK. Ultron you can already farm from story mode, so I'd ideally recommend that you farm him from there. And last but not least, guys, we have the smallest Avenger, Ant-Man. Now, under normal circumstances, I would tell you guys to stay away from Ant-Man because his DPS is not good enough to get any of the endgame content done, even though he has really good survivability in the form of 87% guaranteed dodge and a long iframe on his 4 skill. But since his second movie is about to drop, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I can definitely see Netmarble giving this guy a premium uniform and try to push him back to the forefront of the game, because all they really have to do is increase his DPS and give him a couple heavy hitting skills, and that will actually make him a pretty solid character. But that is all I have to really share for this one, guys. Like always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope it was informative, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace and love, and I'm gone.